this is Yoda from Team Evil Geniuses bringing you this video with Nerdstomper.com. This is going to be the second video in a three-part series on Wraith, and it's going to be commented play of the early game. This particular replay is going to be on Chu, and he's playing Wraith. This is an in-house game, and let's get into the first thing. It's starting items. So choose starting items. Well, I'm going to fast forward this pause actually for a sec. Alright, pause gone. Anyway, choose starting items are actually different from what I recommended. Chu is actually pretty confident in his early game last hitting abilities, so he did not get a second set of regen. Instead, he opted to get a iron buckler. So, if you feel confident that you can make it to 875 gold without running out of regen, then you can do this build. But I find that the hatchet with 3 minor totems and 2 sets of runes of the blight is a lot safer, since if you run out of regen, then you will still be okay. I mean, you won't be okay if you run out of regen, but it's a lot harder to run out of regen when you have 6 tangos instead of 3. Anyway, this pause is getting pretty annoying. Alright, so the first thing I want to note, or the next thing I want to note, is that he's going bottom with Plague Rider. So Plague Rider is a hero that, first of all, he's strong in the lane to make up for Wraith's relative weakness in the lane. And second of all, Plague Rider does not need items to be effective, so he can play a babysitting role for Wraith. So that's basically what he's doing. Wraith is a hard farmer. All you want to do in the early game is last hit creeps. You shouldn't be concerned at all about enemy heroes unless they're like harassing you. You only care about creeps. For this reason, I find Wraith to be a little bit boring. Like, the style of play is not really suited for me. I like to play a lot in the mid game and early game action, which Wraith doesn't really do. All he does in the mid game and early game is farm. So basically, what you're going to see is Chu just hitting creeps in the beginning of the game, unless there's like a kill falling in his lap, in which case he'll take it. Also notice that he's in the good lane for his side. Legion bottom is obviously favored compared to Legion top, so he's at Legion bottom. The enemy heroes are a little bit bad for him. Double range is always sucky for Wraith, and Vindicator is particularly bad for you since you only have one spell, and obviously Vindicator's spell is going to be a pretty good counter to you. So early game, he's pretty much just last hitting. The lane is controlled because of Plague Rider, so as long as he gets the last hits, he will be able to farm. The only problem is right now that at the tower, it's really kind of hard to last hit. So optimally, when you control the lane, the tower won't be hitting creeps. You want the lane to be about here, because here the tower is not competing with you for creeps, so you can get the creep kills, and the tower won't like mess you up. And there he missed a lot of creep kills because the tower was like messing him up, because the tower has higher base damage than you, and it's hard to outlast at that. So anyway, right now, it's kind of hard for him to get last hits since the creep wave is here, and his babysitter, the Plague Rider, is so far away. Really don't know what he's doing here, like playing aggro on 2 range heroes. Yeah, he's going to lose a lot of HP for this. That was pretty dumb of him. You know, when you're playing Wraith, you almost never want to play aggro at all, and you especially don't want to play aggro when your babysitter is all the way over here, stacking creeps, like he said. I don't know why he's stacking creeps either. Wraith isn't particularly adept at killing stacks, so stacking form is pretty pointless too, so I wouldn't do it if I was babysitting for Wraith. Anyway, now he's basically just sitting on the side. When you're babysitting Wraith, you really need to be like sitting there with him. Chu basically right now is like not getting any last hits at all, which is not what you want for Wraith. You always want your babysitter to be nearby, but I guess it's worth it if you got first blood in middle. Yeah, I really would recommend this Plague Rider. Like, getting the haste and ganking middle is pretty good strategy, but stacking the creep camps is not what you need to be doing. You need your babysitter to be like helping you chase off enemy laners, not like stacking the jungle for you. Like, what are you gonna do with a stacked jungle like Wraith? This thing does like 200 damage at level 7. That's not even close to good enough. So Plague Rider should really be chasing these people around instead of stacking the camps. One thing that is good to do, however, is pull this. Pulling this will keep the lane closer to the tower. Obviously, at the tower is better than like over here, since it's easy to last hit. but anyway, he's going to probably get these last hits. I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, he's getting some last hits here. Basically, Wraith is really boring for the first like 20 minutes. All you do is attack creeps and time last hits, which Chu is kind of failing at right now. Make sure you practice last hitting if you're going to play Wraith, because there's a lot of last hitting at early levels. Not a lot of like hero fighting, a lot of last hitting. Last hit, last hit, last hit, last hit, last hit. So anyway, now we're kind of at a dilemma. He's out of regen, and he's still 300 gold, 350 gold from his life tube, so he's in a little bit of trouble. He's going to have to find some way to get the last hits. That's why I recommend starting with 2 sets of Runes of the Blade, obviously, since if you have that, then it's going to be a lot harder to run out, and then you'll be able to buy your Ring of Health right off the bat. Oh, when I say Ring of Health, I mean Life Tube, by the way. It was called Ring of Health in Dota, and I'm still stuck on that terminology sometimes. Anyway, yeah, this happens a lot with Wraith. Well, not a lot. Like, if your lane is losing, which happens all the time because Wraith is not a strong laner, but is really good late game, you're basically just going to sit here and then wait for the enemy heroes to leave or your team to gank them, and then you can get some farm on. Right now he's just sitting back and not really getting anything. Although what really disturbs me is that this Plague Rider is like, he's just stacking camps. He's not even helping him at all. What Wraith really needs is someone to help him win the lane. If Wraith wins the lane, the game's basically over, but that's not happening. One thing we saw here is that Chu opted to buy a mana battery. Mana battery is particularly good on, not particularly good on Wraith. Like, it's decent because, you know, he's kind of like in the action. He's a tank, so you get a lot of use out of it. But generally, you want to be saving up for more tanky items like Helm of the Black Legion. You just don't have the gold for this. But in this game, he's up against an enemy Vindicator, and Vindicator likes to spam his spells a lot. So mana battery can help counter that. Mana battery is, yeah, it's basically a counter item for Vindicator, which is why he bought it. Now his team is doing what they should be doing. They're just sitting there, babysitting him. With Wraith, it kind of sucks, but really you just want your team sitting there, babysitting you, helping you out. I don't know what's up with Chu. He got deserted. So, I really don't approve of getting deserted in early levels. Getting deserted at early levels basically means that you're going to play more of a ganking style Wraith, but that goes against Wraith's style, like the hero's strengths. Wraith's strengths are playing to like surviving the early game, but not really killing anyone, and then getting farmed and going for kills later. Well, he's gonna live. Anyway, yeah, Wraith's style is getting kills later and surviving the early game, which is why you need Dissipate. This Deserted is completely useless right now. He hasn't, like, he basically hasn't procced it once. He has never attacked an enemy hero when they're farther away from, like, an ally. It's just so useless. And he lives at 4 HP. I guess it's lucky. He wouldn't have needed the luck if he had skill Dissipate, but living at 4 HP is pretty lucky. So anyway, make sure you don't skill Dissipate. Like, as you can see from this game, he hasn't used the skill at all. You'd much rather have, I mean, don't skill Desert. You'd much rather have Dissipate. Yeah, so that's that for Wraith. At bottom lane is basically lost since Plague Rider was not there for a really long time. He was basically 1v2ing with like a melee hero, which is just not going to happen. So yeah, so bottom lane is basically lost. All they can hope for is ganks from this Magmus, which is what's happening now. And hopefully while these heroes are gone, you get some free farm time. One thing you notice here is that he TP'd a little early. I definitely would not have done that. I would have waited a little bit longer to get full HP and mana. Now he's like in his lane again, and he is almost no mana, and he's at half. So that's no good. Generally, you want to wait for full HP before you teleport. He obviously was doing that because there was a fight going on, but I think it's not worth it. With Wraith, you are just so useless in early fights. You might as well just wait. For full HP to do that. I know a lot of times I do not promote selfish play like this, but Wraith is just one of those heroes that all you gotta do is the entire game is just be selfish, get last hits, maybe come in for some kills, because basically your gold level is like directly proportional to the chances your team wins. Wraith is really just a late game only hero, not an early game hero at all. So early game you just need to buy items that let you stay in the lane, tanky items that let you survive ganks, and then you build up to late game items after that, like getting Maca Brilliance and then quickly scaling up to the other items. Now he's just last hitting creeps in the lane. This is where you want to be. Since like the enemy heroes are kind of ignoring him, that's what you want to happen for you. When you're Wraith, all you want to do is get ignored and just get big by farming creeps just alone in your lane. So right now there's a Polywog Priest in his lane. Right now he kind of has to be a little bit careful since he doesn't know where the enemy heroes are. And Polywog could easily just initiate on him, and anyone who teleported is going to kill him. But that's what actually happened is he's getting a gank. So obviously this is pretty good for him. Deserted still, didn't really come out of use and maybe contributed 20 damage to that fight. Not really what you need. So that fight was good. Basically, he was able to pick someone off. When you have only one person against you in the lane, you basically always want to call an ally over, or maybe an ally will come over by themselves, but that probably won't happen. You should just always call an ally over to gank that person, or at least chase that person out of the way, because basically all that matters when you're playing Wraith is your farm. So when there's someone in your lane, you need to chase that person out, so call an ally over to do that. Obviously in the laning phase that's going to happen a lot less, but after the laning phase, like at about, let's say 8-minute mark, you can start asking allies to come to your lane to gank or chase someone away from your lane. You always want to stay in the good lane because just in case the lane happens to be pushed up or people are here and no one's doing anything about it, you can always just creep pull for gold. What's important is that your gold inflow never stops. You can't just like sit there not getting gold. You have to always be getting gold. Obviously you're working for your first item, which is Helm of the Black Legion. Once you get that, unfortunately it still is just a lot of farming. Wraith is pretty much just a hard farmer. He doesn't really do anything else. Right now he doesn't even have any mana. Normally I'd say when you don't have mana you have to go heal, but with Wraith, you're not going to be participating in any fights anyway, so you can just stay in your lane even without mana. And yeah, that's basically Wraith play. Sit in your lane forever and ever and ever until you're big enough to just carry the game. A lot of players have trouble figuring out when big enough is. Like big enough basically means that generally it's definitely it's after getting Maca Brilliance, since Maca Brilliance is such a huge item for Wraith. So I'd say after Helm of the Black Legion, Maca Brilliance, and Steam Boots, and at that point you can start like actually being in fights, and you start really taking over the game once you get your next big item, which is usually Frostwolf Skull. Anyway, I'm going to declare that the early game is now over because it's super boring with Wraith. Anyway, he's now finished his Helm of the Black Legions. You can see he's got 2 parts and he's got 1100 gold. So he's going to finish that, and then he'll just stay in the lane farming for a bit. So that's it for part 1. For part 2. Part 3 is probably going to be a little bit fast forwarded from this. I'm going to go for a little after he gets his Helm of the Black Legion, so you don't have to watch him just hitting creeps for like 10 minutes like we just did. And yeah.